A pleasure for me to be back with another webinar, this time introducing this amazing app called Notion. Now, to tease the subject, before getting straight into it, let me just bring onto the screen here, and I want to take you to a post of mine on LinkedIn from about a year ago. You see here, 11 months ago. And back then, I wrote 3 apps that changed my life: Notion, Make, and ChatGPT. Now, today we're going to focus on Notion. I've spoken in precisely the previous webinar in extensive length about ChatGPT and all you can do to leverage ChatGPT and other AI tools. But today we're going to focus on Notion. And basically, I want to point you to this sentence here. Um, I used to run with OneNote and the Google Suite, also the Microsoft Suite you can add to it, as I'm sure most of you do use. But for me, moving to Notion has felt like upgrading to a Ferrari. I mean, honestly, it's been a material change in terms of organizing my data, workflows, and productivity. And I'm not exaggerating when I tell you that today, a year after that post, I pretty much ran my entire life with Notion. Not just work, but all my family affairs, business, household, kids, pretty much everything. Now, that LinkedIn post that I just showed you, let me just bring it back again 1 second. I did have some decent engagement. So people seem to have resonated with it. People seem to have liked it. But here we are a year later, and when I talk to my colleagues and friends, I notice that Notion has not been widely adopted inside the industry, not at all. So I thought of running this webinar session to introduce Notion because I believe it could also be a game changer to many of you, not just me. So what the heck is Notion if you haven't come across it yet? So let me just go straight to my Notion window here. You can see on screen. And as usual, this session is going to be a live demo with me sharing this screen so you can get an idea of the capabilities of this platform. Now, Notion is actually a bit difficult to define because it's many things, but let's just say that it's a multifunctional platform that combines features of note-taking, database organization, collaboration, and knowledge management. So that's pretty much the broad definition. So what I'll do next is to start on this very white canvas you see here on the screen with the very basics, and we're going to build up from there to demonstrate the Notion capabilities that I mentioned. Okay? Now, this screen, this is the Notion interface as you see it right here, right? It's essentially a blank page, and here, if you're just starting from scratch, you can just start typing away, as you would do with any blank page in Word, for example, right? So just type, delete, save, nothing new here. So type anything, right? Now, essentially what I've just done here in Notion is I added what is called a text block. So that's the very important concept to understand in Notion. Blocks are the foundational elements in Notion. Everything we do in Notion is organized in blocks, and every piece of content is a block. And there are many different types of blocks inside of Notion. This is just an example. It's just a simple text block. We're going to see quite a few other blocks inside of Notion today. Okay, now how do we access all the possible blocks to drop onto the Notion page? And here you see this placeholder text gives you a way, tells you press slash for commands. So all you do here is just press slash, and it will bring this contextual menu which lists all the possible blocks you can add to your Notion document. So for example, we can just add a to-do list block, and this will bring this text block here, and you can start typing your thing. So if you just go enter, it assumes that you want to write another to-do block, so it'll offer you another to do block just like that. Then you can come here and tick this off if this is what you want to do to manage your tasks. Now in here, I'm just going to delete to go back to square one. I'm going to press slash again to access another type of block. Let's just keep going down this list. So this is, for example, a heading. So it brings this heading block, and I'm just going to write title. I'm going to enter, and I'm going to type slash again, and I'm going to bring another block. In this case, I'm going to choose heading 3. I'm going to call it subtitle and enter. And now I'm going to press slash again, and I'll keep showing you a few block examples. For example, a bulleted list, typical bullet points you would have in any document as well. Let me just drag this zoom bar to my other screen. Okay, so, and this is bullet 1, and again, it'll assume if I press enter that you want to keep adding bullet points, and then you just exit by pressing escape or delete. Okay, so these are just a few simple examples of blocks you can drop onto your Notion documents. Another way to access that list of blocks is if you notice that you can hover your mouse over any of these text blocks, you see that little symbol to the left that tells you that this is a block, and you can grab that block and move it around your document to wherever you want to place it. But also, it offers you that plus sign there, so if you click on that plus, it brings again the list of possible blocks you might want to add immediately after that text block where you click that plus symbol. So let's add a number list now. Number 1, number 2, I'm just entering any dummy text, and again delete, and I escape that numbered list. So 2 ways to access all those possible blocks. And it becomes very, this is a muscle memory you develop once you get used to working inside of Notion. You just go to slash very quickly, and here actually instead of scrolling down, if you know what you want to do, you start typing for the block you want. For example, if I want to do a toggle block, this is another one that I'm going to introduce, I just type to for toggle, and it'll bring up to the front everything that begins with a to. So to-do list, toggle list. So what is a toggle list? Is this kind of thing. So toggle example, and a toggle block is a great element in Notion because it allows you to incorporate a lot of information and collapse everything and keep your document very clean. So for example, I can add another subtoggle inside of that. Again, I'm going to press slash to for toggle or toggle list, right? And then subtoggle, and then inside of that, things like that. So all of a sudden, I have a lot of content inside of this subtitle here. And to keep your document clean and readable and easy to navigate, you can simply collapse that stuff. So this is it's one of my favorite blocks inside of Notion, these toggle blocks, because precisely they allow you to encompass a lot of different types of data and information inside of a single toggle. You expand this stuff. Okay. Now, when you have a certain combination of blocks on your Notion documents, in a certain structure or layout, this is what is called a Notion template, which is basically the lifeblood of Notion, right? Everything revolves around set templates. And a template is a great thing to have because it serves as a starting point for creating new documents in Notion, which saves you a lot of time and effort. So today, as an example, after introducing all these very basic blocks and how Notion essentially works, which is just a series of different types of blocks organized in a certain structure and layout, we're actually going to build from scratch here on this demo session a field review template. This is what we're going to be doing now. Okay, now field review, let me just delete all this stuff. By the way, if you want to delete any of this stuff, you can do like you would do, selecting the whole thing and delete, or you can just click there on the box, on the toggle, and on the block symbol there, and delete there, or you can simply drag your mouse and select a bunch of blocks and press delete, right? So what we're going to do is to create a field review template, and to do that I'm going to introduce another block type, which is a page block, right? So I'm going to press slash to go into the list, and I'm going to select the second block in the list, which is called a page block. And that'll do is it'll bring up a new page, which is a new blank page, and we're going to put a title to this page. The title is going to be field review. Okay, now you notice in the interface at the top you have the navigation. So we were sitting here in the Notion for Oil and Gas live webinar page, and now we created a page inside of that, so it brings you to the next level in the navigation bar. So if you go back, this is where we were. You click on that page, it brings you to that new page. And so you go. You can start adding multiple pages here. And then it adds, sub-page. You put the number, any title you want to your pages and sub-pages, and you will see all the navigation at the top. So if you go back one level, that's where we see the page. You go back one level, and that's where our field review page was embedded on the Notion main page. So we're going to go back to that field review page. We're going to delete that because we don't want that. It's just an example. And we're going to start building our field review on this blank canvas or this empty page. Okay. Now, a field review is a key multidisciplinary exercise in any asset, as you are very aware, where a lot of information needs to be put together from various teams, different disciplines, various data types, etc. Right? And what I want to propose to you is that a field review is a great use case for Notion, precisely because it makes for a much better user experience compared to writing a field review report in a Word document or in a series of PowerPoint documents. It's always painful to be working on those documents, especially when there are multiple people contributing. You send, documents as attachments via emails, or you have them on a network drive sitting somewhere, or on SharePoint. You have a lot of duplicate files. It's always a royal mess. So what I want to propose to you is Notion offers a much better user experience when working on documents of the sort of a field review, which again encompasses many different types of disciplines, data types, different teams, people, etc. Okay, now that is my personal opinion, and I'll leave it to you to decide for yourselves whether you agree with me or not on this one. So let's dive in and see what you think of it. Okay, so again, this is the field review template that we're going to work on, and essentially it's a new page that we added on our main Notion page. And inside of that page, this is where we're going to be creating our template. Now, just for cosmetic purposes, you have the ability here, you go at the top with your mouse and you see that it offers you the possibility to add an icon, which become actually these very cute, handy visuals. You can select anything from a bunch of emojis, icons, or you can bring your own images to use as icons. So for the time being, I'm just gonna select anything. Let's just use that icon and select, that gray color. Whatever, it's not important. It's just to show that when you go back, so now that page has that little icon sign. So visually, it could help quickly identify the pages you're interested in. If you have obviously a clear image, if you're talking about a Wells page, you want to have a well icon sitting there, for example. Okay, so for now, let's just use that icon, but also you can add a cover. And in this case, you bring a page to give you a bit of a web-like feel onto your Notion page. Now in this case, it drops any image at random from the library it has, but you can obviously change that image. And again, you can upload your own image or select from the gallery. And this is connected to Unsplash, which you may know it's a stock photography library which you can access for free. So you can have this little search button. So let's look for something related to oil, and let's use that one as an example for our cover image to our field review page. So all of a sudden we have a nice web-like page where we're going to start building our field review template. Okay, now the first thing that I would like to do is to actually have clarity on my template outline. That is to say, what is the bunch of titles or headings and subheadings that I want to organize my field template in? Because then if I have that as a template, then I can repeat the process for any other field. When I repeat, the field review in any other asset or any other field, I have already the template built, and all I need to do is to replace the content for each one of those sections and subsections. So if you think of this as if it was a report in Word, this would be your main titles and subtitles, and then you start dropping information, content, text, images, etc. inside or under each of those titles. Okay? Now, you may have already a very clear outline in your head in terms of how you want to organize the field review information for your template, or just linking to our prior session, we can actually leverage our friend ChatGPT. So let me bring once again this other tab that I have here, and this is what I had prompted just for the fun of it. You are an oil and gas reserve certification expert. You have been commissioned to certify reserves for one of your clients who is a natural gas producer. You must abide by the SPE PRMS guidelines. Create the outline of your certification report, which is to be used as a folder structure for the field review. Assume your client has only one asset, one gas field with 5 wells. Now, this is just a mock-up. This is just, any type of prompts for me to get ChatGPT to spit out a coherent outline of, that can suggest me how I should structure my template or my report or my review. Okay. Now you don't need to do this. I'm just showing you that if you don't have clarity in your head as to how to organize information, you can simply leverage ChatGPT, and you can give it a role, be very precise with what exactly are you looking for, and then you can use or not, or use parts of the output that ChatGPT gives you. Now, in this case, I'm going to just start dropping a few headings, and we're going to make progress one by one as I keep typing on the Notion page that I have here. Okay, so let's say that our first heading is going to be an overview section. Okay, so I want to do that by pressing the slash to bring again the list of basic blocks, and I want this to be a toggle header. Okay, so this is the first, and I decided to use the heading 3 size because I don't want this to be too big. I mean, obviously this is up to your own preferences, but for now, let's just use the heading 3 size. And my first heading in my field review template is going to be the overview title. And just to add a couple of subheadings, I'm going to again bring a toggle block, and a subheading is going to be introduction, and another one is going to be field history. Let's just do those two as examples. Okay, that's it. Now, let's say the next big heading that I want to have is, again, I'm going to use a toggle 3 heading, and I want toggles because I want to embed all the information inside of these toggle blocks, so my template looks very clean with all the relevant information inside of each toggle, as opposed to having a gazillion pages with just plain text you cannot, navigate too easily. Okay, so the next one that I want to add, let's say it's going to be a G&G main heading, geology and geophysics. Okay, and inside of that, let's put a few subheadings as example. Again, toggle, and let's say regional geology as example. Let's do stratigraphy, and let's do structure. Okay, that's it for now. We don't need to get too fussed about it. Obviously, all of these can be fine-tuned to the layout as exactly you would want it. Okay, now at this point, let me stop and let me show you another couple of interesting things you could do here. Okay, so we have these toggles, and as I showed you before, you can simply drag your mouse, you click and drag, and you can select more than one block at a time. So in this case, I have just those two toggle blocks. I'm going to select those two, and when you go here when you hover your mouse, and you go here and expand that, it offers you options for what you want to do with those selected blocks. So in this case, let's put a color, and let's put a background color. Let's select orange as an example, and now you can see a little orange tone on these blocks. Just for you to add some cosmetic preferences as you start creating and expand your document. Okay, now let's say that I want to bring some content as opposed to me keeping adding different titles and subtitles at this point. Let me just bring some piece of content. But let's assume that you do have your outline ready. I would always recommend to have the outline ready first, then start dropping content into your outline, and then reorganizing if you needed to. And I'll show you later how easy it is to drag things around and reorganizing your content. Okay, so let's say that I want to bring some introduction to our field review, and for that purpose, I'm going to go back to my browser here. Let me bring it across to the screen once more, and I'm going to go to this public page. This is the Wikipedia page for the witch farm field, which I'm going to use for the purpose of this example. So let's say that I want to just bring that as an introduction in my field review document. Obviously, this I'm just copying and pasting to use public information and save time, but obviously this is where you would need to be creating the introduction for your field. Okay. Now let's just paste that stuff here. And one thing you notice is that Notion was smart enough to retain some formatting that we had on the source page. So which farm was bold, and there were a couple of links here, a few links there. All of those were actually transferred across as links here. If I hover the mouse, it actually shows you there's a link there. You can click on this thing and it'll open a new tab on your browser with that link. It retained that bold format, so it's smart enough, so it makes it easy for you to transfer across from other places, other documents you may have, PDFs, Word documents, or web pages, to start creating your own field review inside of Notion. Okay, Um, so that's going to be the content for our overview, main heading, and introduction subheading. Now, let's say that as part of the introduction, I want to bring a location map or a couple of location maps. Those are things that you always want to do in an introduction chapter of a field report, right? So let's say for demonstration purposes that I want to do that and in a separate location page block. So I'm going to press a slash as usual to bring the list of blocks, and I'm going to choose page. This is going to bring a page block. I'm going to title it location map. Okay, I'm going to put an icon for cosmetic appeal. Let's just use, for example, you can use a zoom to bring that. I don't want to use a cover image just to save time. And if I go back in my navigation bar at the top, those breadcrumbs there, you can see now we have an introduction toggle, which contains that paragraph. I haven't added anything to the field history yet, so that's empty. And now I have a location map block, not a toggle block. And inside of this page, I want to bring a couple of maps. Now, to bring maps, those are images that I want to drop onto my Notion page. So there are many ways you can bring images across. So one way is I have already the tab here that I did before beginning this webinar. And I have a few images here, just which farm location on Google. So let's say that I want to bring those two images. So you can just copy that image and then you go to your Notion page, and I'm just gonna Control V to paste that image, and it's going to recognize that as an image block. And then another thing you can do is you can use your whatever files, image files you have stored on your computer, you can simply drag them across to the Notion page, and it'll also be recognized as an image, and it'll turn that into an image block inside of Notion. So in this case, I have those two images. Okay, now these images inside of Notion, you hover your mouse there and you have a few options there. For example, you can align that to the left, you can drag that thing to expand it, or make it smaller, right? Very easy. If you are viewing an Notion document and this wasn't prepared by you, you have the ability to actually download that image. So all of these options are available to you. And actually, one cool thing you can do is, let's say that I don't want to have those images stacked on top of each other. So what you do is you drag that block there. Again, always you hover your mouse over any block and it'll bring up that little icon there. You can grab that block and drag it. And this comes and drag it to put it side by side. And then you have this, again, you hover your mouse, you have that divider line in the middle. So it allows you to split those two columns. And then you can, so one thing is the size of the image, another thing is divider between the two columns you just created in your document. So let's say we're happy with that, and obviously you can keep adding things to this location map. In this case, I'm just going to bring these two images as examples. You can keep adding and keep adding to the right or below as a matter of your own preferences. So if I go back again, this is where we are. We have a location map, and inside of that page, the images we just dropped inside of Notion. Now, let's say that you don't want to have that as a separate page. You just want to have them in here. So you change your mind. So what you can do is to, again, hover your mouse, go there to see what options available you do have for each block. You click on it, and we're going to turn that block now into a toggle block. So now, instead of having a page, you have a new toggle. And inside of that toggle, we have our images. So how convenient is that? So again, just for the purpose of cleanness, imagine how this would contrast with a Word document, which has a bunch of text and images, and is very long and painful to navigate. Even if you have, links in a top menu or an index at the front, in here you can have these toggle blocks, very easy to identify, navigate, or those pages with some, indicative icons for you to identify the piece of content you're looking after, and then you can quickly go to that and expand and collapse these toggle blocks as needed. So that's it for the location map toggle block. Again, if you change your mind again, you can turn that back into a page instead of keeping it as a block. So you can turn a toggle into a page or a page into a toggle, not a problem. All right. So let's say we're happy with how this looks right now, and the next step would be for us to keep adding the content to our field review template. So let's say we want to bring a bit of a video that we have for a field review, and if I bring that browser again, what I have here is a witch farm field trip YouTube video. And let's say that you want to have that in your Notion page. So what you do is you just copy that link and you paste it in Notion. So let me add a new block here by hovering over the last block inside of my overview, this location map. I'm going to add a new block instead of pressing slash, and I'm going to bring here nothing. I'm just going to paste the link for me to show you that Notion recognizes this is a link and it offers you the ability to embed this as a video, create a bookmark, or dismiss it and leave it just as a plain link. So if I do embed video, immediately Notion turns that link into this embed video window, which is another block inside of Notion. And now, inside of the overview, we have a lot of stuff. We have text, we have images in our location map inside of that page, and now we have videos as well, which you can play inside of Notion without ever leaving to YouTube. Obviously, you can launch YouTube as well from here, as you would do with any YouTube embed anywhere. But Notion was smart enough to recognize that that link was a YouTube video, and it offered you the possibility to embed that video straight inside of your Notion page. And again, as we did with the images, you can drag that block and expand it or collapse it. Now, another thing that I want to show, and I'll do that inside of the location map as an example, is you see this Notion works with a set width for the page, but you have the ability in the top right here to turn that into a full width to occupy more of the screen real estate you have here available. So if you want to expand, you can simply turn that with that full width option instead of using the constrained width that Notion offers by default. Okay, so let's go back to our main page, and again, I've shown you that now we have quite a bit of information contained inside of that overview toggle. Okay, so what you would do from here on is to proceed with your template. Again, as I said before, it's preferable to build the outline first with all your titles and subtitles, and then start dropping content inside or under each of those titles and subtitles. Now, one thing that also you can do is, if you're not happy with the location of any of these blocks, let's say that you want to embed that video inside a title, let's say a field trip title, so you can add that. Again, I'm going to add a toggle, and we're going to call this field trip. So now we're going to drag that video and we're going to put it inside that block. So now it looks a little bit cleaner, and only if you want to view the video, maybe you can be very specific, this is a video, only if you want to view the video, you just expand the toggle and that's the video, instead of taking too much of your screen and diverting your attention. Okay, now let's say that you don't want to have that inside the overview toggle, you want it outside the overview toggle. What you simply do is you just grab that and you just drag it to whatever you want. Let's say you want to have it there, and actually I'm going to turn that into a main toggle instead of a small toggle. Remember, those were headings 3 toggles, so I'm going to turn that into a toggle heading 3, and now the field trip video becomes a prominent toggle, just as the other two that I have here. And as I did before, I can put that in the same color as the other ones for cosmetic purposes. I have a blank block there, which is that white line creating too much spacing, so I'm just going to delete that by selecting that block and pressing delete, and there we go. If you didn't like that, or you want to have it inside of the overview, you change your mind again, you just drag that inside, not a problem. You can have it inside of the introduction, for example. Now the introduction is the one that has that filter video. So dragging things around to reorganize your information is very, very easy and straightforward. No pain at all. Everything retains its formatting. The hierarchy is retained, so it's a thing of a beauty to reorganize content. Now, another thing that I want to show you right away is, let's say that you have a piece of content that belongs, and we all have encountered this problem, it belongs in more than one place. So for example, let's say that the location map sits under the overview, but also you want to refer to location map somewhere inside of the GAG of the GNG heading. So instead of creating a duplicate, what I'll do is I'm going to create a link to a linked view. So bear with me here. So I'm going to select that location map, and I'm going to create a link, and inside of the GNG, let's going to create a new one, and I'm going to go Control V, okay, and this is going to create a link to that page. Okay, so I'm not creating any duplicates. I'm not copying the content. I'm just actually linking dynamically to the content that sits in the one place, but now you can access it from other sections in your document. So it's very, very convenient to also have. Many times you have, a piece of information, let's say a DST, and you don't know where to look for it. Where should it go? Should it go under reservoir engineering chapter? Should it go under the wells chapter? Should it go where? Is it organized by discipline? Is it organized by well names, by field, by asset? So it's always a pain to get the folder structure right because things belong usually in more than one place. So the beauty of this is you can create those linked blocks instead of creating duplicates. You can also add those links in the many parts of your document to access them. Now, likewise, you can grab any of these toggle blocks, and I'm going to create a copy. So copy link to block, and inside of here, as an example, I'm going to create a new toggle block there, and I'm going to Control V to paste. But now, look at this option, paste and sync. And when you do that, you see that red rectangle there around. It's the same that it was created here, that pinky one. It tells you that this is a sync block, meaning that that block is now in more than one location in your document, and whatever change you do to that block anywhere, it will be reflected anywhere. So this field history block was created here, but now I added a synced view of that block down here. So if I add something here, now you will see that immediately it's updated at the top because it's a synced view. So these two blocks are synced. So whatever changes you do in any of them, it will be immediately visible and reflected in the other ones. Okay, so that's another very convenient thing to have. Now again, turning blocks into pages, instead of having these main headings or toggle headings, you can turn all of those into pages. I'm going to drag to select those two again. I'm going to turn them into pages. And now you can actually select, let's say for an overview, I want to select an A for info. And let's say to the GNG, I want to select an icon, and I'm going to choose whatever that. Okay. So, and this is up to you. And let me remove the orange background just to complete the example. So instead of having your field template document organized with those big toggle blocks and all the information inside of them, where you can collapse and expand those blocks, you can prefer to have them as individual pages. And this is pretty much a visual preference that you may have. Now, again, as I did with the images before, you can drag that block and put it on the side of this, and then you can put this closer together, something like that. So instead of having toggle blocks as main headings, you can have different pages, and this becomes your main dashboard to navigate to each section of your main template, right? So again, it's totally up to you how you want to organize your information. The point being, this is extremely flexible, and you have many various different options to choose from. Let's say that you want to put the entire GNG page inside of the overview page. You just simply drag it inside. So now it disappeared here, and now you will find that inside of the overview page. See? So now this is where, now no links were broken, all the hierarchy of information was retained, not a problem at all. That location map link keeps working, sends you the right place. So very easy and straightforward to organize your information and move things around, which is obviously a huge convenience. All right, now let me show you another interesting type of block, which is a table block. And let me go back once more to our Witch Farm Wikipedia page. And if I scroll down this page to this all specifications section, there's a table here. So I'm just going to copy that table, and I'm going to bring that across, and I'm going to create a title, and this title is going to be a oil spec. Okay, and inside of that table, I'm going to Control V to paste that table, and again, I didn't have to do anything. Notion was smart enough to recognize that it was a table, therefore it created for me a table block. And in a table block, you have all these cells, you have these dividers, you can make them wider or narrower, etc. You can add columns to this table, you can add rows to the table, you can delete rows, delete columns, etc. And also, again, it was smart enough to recognize that inside the table there were a few links, and those links were carried across here. And you see, you hover your mouse, you see that link there, you can click on that link and it'll take you to the page. All right, so that's the table block. And now we're going to move to the most powerful feature of all. After having introduced all these very basic blocks and basic features in Notion, just for me to give you a bit of a flavor of how to navigate your way around a Notion interface, now we're going to go into what's the most powerful feature in Notion, which are Notion databases. Okay, Notion databases allow you to create structured collections of information, enabling you to organize, filter, and view your data in a variety of ways. So for the sake of the example of creating a database, let me just bring once again a table that I had already created before, and in this case, I'm going to drag the table from my computer as an image. There we go. So it recognized that image that I dropped from my computer onto the Notion page, and it created this image block. Now I'm dropping this to have this here visible for you to see, but what I want to do is to not create a table, but to create a database. And I'm going to call this a well database. Okay, so this is a very, very simplistic example database which contains only 4 columns. Okay, well name, well type, whether it's cord or not, and what type of completion it has. So to create a database, I'm going to press slash to bring the list of blocks, and I'm going to find. Remember, you can either scroll down to find amongst the list, or you can start typing. So I'm just going to type database, and I'm going to create an inline database as opposed to a full page database, which is exactly the same as before, whether you want to have the database inside of the page you're working in, or you want to create a separate page altogether with the database. It doesn't make much of a difference. So just for visibility, you have it side by side with this table here. I'm going to create that database as an inline database. And the first thing I'm going to do is to give that database a name. So, well, database, okay? And now I want to create the columns for my database. So the first one is going to be well, or well, let's call it well name. That's fine. I'm just going to replicate this table structure here. The next one is going to be a well type, right? So that column, what I need to do is to select what type of property, it's called property in Notion, what type of data are you going to be bringing to your database in that column, okay? And there are many different data types. In this case, I'm going to select a type which is called a select type because it allows the user to select from amongst a list of options. So I'm going to add the options, and as you can see the table there, the options are either vertical, deviated, or horizontal. All right, and that's it. So that means now if I add my first element to my database, let's say well 1, in this field I'm going to rename as type or well type, right? Instead of typing anything, because this is a select field, the user can click on it and select from the options. Now it didn't add the final option because I didn't click enter, so I'm going to go back and add a new option there and horizontal enter, and then it was there. Now if I go back here, I have the 3 options. So instead of typing, I can select. So let's do a list of wells already. Okay, 2, well 3, well 5, well 6. Let's just do 7 wells first. Okay, and then you just go typing away instead of clicking away instead of typing, and you can customize this, change the color, and all of that is obviously customizable. So let's do that. Let's do that as an example. Okay, the next one is whether the well was cored or not. So in this case, I want to demonstrate a property or data type called checkbox. So I'm going to add a new column here, clicking on that plus, and I want to select the type of data that will end up in that column, and I want to show you one which is called checkbox. I could do also a select type just as I did here with options yes or no, but just for demonstration purposes I want to select this checkbox um, option, and I'm going to name that chord. So that's the name of the column, and in this case you click away whether the well is chord or not. So let's say those were chord and those two were not chord. Okay, so it makes for a very user-friendly interface. And finally, let's create the fourth column, and in this case I want to show you, instead of creating a select type or typing away, I want to create a new database with the completion types, just for me to show you that you can create links between different databases, which also has other benefits. So let's create a new database. In this case, I'm going to create it above it here, and again slash database for inline, and this is going to be completion database, and I'm going to have just three options as an example. Let's do perf frag and open hole, just to move quickly. Okay, now open hole. Now you will notice that this looks like an Excel table pretty much, but each of these elements inside an Ocean database is a page itself in its own right. So if you hover your mouse over each of these elements, you see that open, it offers you the option to open that page. So it's not just a row in a table, it's a page itself. And inside of this page, you can have all sort of different types of content and blocks as well. You have pages and sub-pages and toggles and sub-toggles, etc. And like before, with any page, we can add an icon to that page. So let's just do that for now. Let's add an icon to the frag. And let's not change it. Let's just accept whatever default it gave me. Okay, and now I'm gonna stop creating that database. That's it. My completion database is ready. And in this well database, I want to create a new completion column, but I want to pick from that database the option. So I link those two databases. And to do that, I add a new column with a plus button. And in this case, I'm going to select what is called in Notion a relation type, which is a relation between databases. What's the database I want to relate to? The one I just created, that one, which is offered at the top. The latest ones are offered at the top. So I'm going to select that one. I'm going to also select that show on both databases the link. So add a relation. Now in this case, instead of typing or selecting from pre-selected options, this one is going to offer me the options that come from that database, right? So, and those are the three options, and you can see the three icons they're looking for you to quickly identify. And this one is going to be, and there, perfect. And let's do one more frag to complete our 7 wells. Let's close that one that got open on the right hand side. When you click here on any of these pages, it opens on the right hand side. You can also expand that to full screen, but for now let's leave it that is. Okay, so that's it. Our well database is ready. Now you can improve the layout a bit. Let me just remove the title so it doesn't take too much space, just for that. So that's it. That's our database with all the wells, and the beauty of having databases will become evident right now. So let's say you're in a different page of your field review template. We're going to go inside of the overview just for the sake of this example, and I want to create a linked view of this database. So let me do this. There are a couple of ways that I want to show you. The first one is I'm going to select there, and I'm going to copy link, and I'm going to go inside a different page. It could be anywhere in your Notion document, and I'm going to paste, and now you're offered to create a linked view of a database. Now the entire database was brought in, but it's not a new table, it's the exact same database, but what I can do now is to create alternative views of it. For example, I can name this core wells, right? And what I'll do is I'll select to display on this only those wells that are cored. So I create a linked view to the database, and I create a filter, and I choose only to display the cored wells. Okay, there you go. So you have just the single database with all your wells, and then you can start bringing information on an as needed basis using filters. and linked views to that database and display these wherever you want in your document without having to copy, paste, and duplicate anything. Let me show you another way in which you can create uh, linked views. So I'm going to go inside the GNG just to show you before I forget. You can also, with a slash button, go to database as we did before, but instead of going with a straight database, you can have a linked view of database. And again, you will be asked to select which database you want to link. So let's say I want to choose the completion database. Now, in this case, I want to display that not as a table. I'm going to choose to display that in a different layout. And in this case, I want to choose a gallery view. So now I have my 3 completions, and I'm going to put on a full width. I have my 3 completion pages displayed on this gallery view. It looks empty because I didn't attach any image to that, but I can actually come to this database and actually select to display the gallery with the card preview being the page cover. So if we go to each of those individual pages, remember you can add images to your covers. I'm not going to change them just to show you. And now you can have, obviously, you think of this being a proper report of yours, a field. You may have database with your different assets. You may have your database with your different fields, wells, teams, anything. You can attach relevant images to each of those. The beauty of this is, you can start combining linked views to your databases and creating all sorts of visually appealing dashboards with images and stuff. So it's very easy for you to come here and go immediately to, all right, I want to go immediately to all the wells that have been perfed. So you click on that and it tells you those are the wells that have been perfed because we linked them before in our preceding page. Now, another type of layout for your database is a board layout. So I'm going to change, instead of being a table, I'm going to select a board type. And in this case, it's grouped by well type. So you can have here a list of, under each of these well type columns, all the wells are deviated, all the wells are vertical, all the wells are horizontal. So these are, alternative ways for you to visualize the same data sitting in the single database. Now, this is a very simple 4-column database, but things can get very complicated very quickly, and having the ability to create linked views across your document in many parts and play around with those filters. You can add multiple filters. It's very, very convenient because you work from the single master database without creating any duplicate content. Yeah, a couple of things that are very important is, once you have your template ready, you can actually share this whole thing as a link. Now, I have this template that I had already created, and what I'll do is I'll share this link with you so you can have a bit of a play. So once you are ready with your documents, you come up here at the top and you can do 2 things. You can share with people and start adding people with their email addresses, or if you have people already incorporated to your Notion workspace, and those people can become collaborators of yours. So you don't create the template yourself, you can start collaborating with other people simultaneously on creating this template, which is obviously great. And you can, tag each other with comments and stuff. But also, again, you can publish this as a link view, and you go here and you copy that link, okay, and that becomes now a shareable document. So the other thing that I wanted to show you is that Notion runs also on mobile. It has a pretty convenient app, and let me actually bring my screen, my phone link on. Here it is. I'm gonna bring it up. So what you're seeing right here is my phone, okay? And actually, you can, on the link to Windows, I can either, I'm just now moving my finger on the phone itself, but also you can click on this stuff and it updates in both. But essentially what I wanted to show you is, on your mobile, the app runs very smoothly as well. And what you can have, and this is what has been the most impressive game changer for me. I work with multiple clients, multiple projects, my memory sucks, especially as I age. So having a second brain in my pocket in my phone has been a real game changer. You can contain, imagine the amount of information you can have well organized in a clean template for you to quickly access all the information you need from your pocket. I certainly hope that this sparked your curiosity and desire to have a bit of a play with it. As I've mentioned repeatedly, from me, it's been a game changer, and I'm sure that if you put some time, you will find it amazing too. Now, before I go, let me just tell you a couple of things. The first one is, let me bring again this browser. The first one is that I run a newsletter which is called Oil and Gas AI Wave. And if you are a subscriber already, you would have received the latest issue precisely on the topic of Notion. So everything that I covered today, rather rushing through it because of the time, it was much better covered in a sequential um, presentation and the latest issue of the newsletter. So if you are not subscribed, you can subscribe now. It's free, and you'll get directly in your inbox all the cool stuff happening in the AI and no-code space, where I discuss many more use cases specifically tailored to the oil and gas sector. Okay, so that's where I leave today, guys. That's it for me. Thank you all for tuning in, and again, thank you to Opa Energy guys for organizing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.